What's up everybody, it's Eli here from TreeFall Studios, and today I have a video just for fun. Thanksgiving is around the corner and I hope everybody has an absolutely amazing holiday. I'm going to be taking a little bit of time off, and I have a jam-packed December schedule for you guys. Tons of game development videos, my yearly income videos, my plans for 2026, some surprise game announcements, and more looks at Pitterpot and more. So I got a huge lineup for you guys, so I figured today I would just film a video just for fun, just so we can talk about Black Friday shopping and the PlayStation 5, which is a topic you know I enjoy. So if you haven't been following along with all of the things going on in the world, there is a strange thing going on right now with AI and AI data centers. They're outbidding basically everybody for chips, computer parts, RAM, and it's going to be causing PC parts to get more expensive. And there's been all these memes on the internet how, you know, a couple of sticks of RAM is now more expensive than a PS5 Pro. And there's uncertainty going around in the market with inflation, tariffs, and all sorts of other things that have been causing console prices to go up and to go down. And, you know, it's just been really, really weird. So people just haven't known when to buy, what to buy. And it just feels like in the future, things are going to keep getting more expensive if we stay on the current trend that we're on. And this Black Friday, out of all of the places that you could buy video games, Xbox, Switch, the PS5, or, you know, building a PC, PlayStation has kind of the best deals. They have $100 off of all of their consoles, and a lot of their games are pretty dirt cheap. You know, Nintendo's not really there's a lot of Nintendo games that are quote unquote cheap because they're maybe $30 off or something like that, but we're talking about Switch games that came out in like 2017. That's what they're putting on sale. You're not really getting sales on these brand new games that just came out. You know, it's obvious those games just came out over the last couple of months, so yeah, we're not getting sales on those types of things. So this kind of makes this honestly the most cost-effective thing that you could buy in the gaming realm for 2025 holiday, the PlayStation 5, and a ton of games that are on sale. And it's very interesting, you know, I get all these comments all the time from people who really like my games and say, hey, you know, your games are very family friendly, these would be really great on the Switch. And it's kind of like assumed that the PlayStation is not a good console for families to own, which I highly disagree. Even though that there are a lot of first-party studios on the PlayStation teams that do make, you know, highly violent and or cinematic adult story-like experiences, that's not all that PlayStation makes, and this goes all the way back to the PS1. There's been great family games all the way on every single PlayStation console, and there are so many that you can buy and play with your family on the PlayStation 5. So I figured that I would gear this video towards people who don't own a PS5 and are thinking about picking up one for these Black Friday sales, because, you know, I've got some hidden gems and cool recommendations that would be great for you and your family. So like I mentioned from the top, there are a load of discounts on PlayStation hardware, $100 off of any console, digital, disc, or PS5 Pro. In my personal opinion, you should probably save the money on the PS5 Pro and just get a regular PlayStation 5. I know there's a lot of benefits to it. However, I'm one who tends to believe that the rumors of the 2027 holiday PS6 is going to be true, 2028 at the latest, depending on the market environment. So, you know, you got a couple more years with the PS5, and, you know, if you don't want to upgrade right away, you know, it might make sense to buy a PS5 Pro. But for the cost difference, $650 versus $450, you know, I'd probably just get the regular one, in my opinion, because the one that I would recommend would be the disc version, because there are a lot of games on that are way cheaper physically on disc, and you want that option to be able to buy games physically on disc, and you could also play movies on it as well, especially if we're talking about buying this as a family entertainment unit for your living room. There's only a $50 difference between the digital version and the disc version, and it's just so much better to have that disc version. So it's only $450, and it comes packed in with Astro's Playroom. As far as a pack-in game goes, it's absolutely amazing. So if you do just buy the system and you don't pick any games up yet, you do have at least one game to play for free. So I'm going to run through a couple of PS5 software recommendations that are actually on sale that are pretty good deals for this Black Friday. Number one would be Gran Turismo 7. That is only $29.99. You can pick that up at retail stores. This game is single player online, but it also does have split screen. So if you do want to race with a family member, you can. It's 2-player split screen. I personally own the game and I've played it a ton. It is just an awesome racing game if you like simulation type of games. It's not an arcade racer, but you know, I still think that there's probably enjoyment out there to be had for people who have not played this style of game before. Another amazing pickup this year would be Ratchet and Clank for $30 on disc. That game was absolutely amazing. It was really fun. You know, it's not the longest game in the world, but none of these types of games are. But for $30, it's totally worth the money, and especially if you like 3D platforming, adventures, any of that kind of stuff, it's totally right up your alley. But the number one recommendation for this year is for sure Astrobot on the PS5. That is the best family-friendly game that you can play on the PlayStation 5. It is so good it rivals Nintendo games, and it's just an awesome 3D platforming adventure, and it just goes through the history of video games in general, all the way back to the PlayStation 1. Totally worth the pickup, and that's at the lowest price it's ever been at retail. It's now only $40. It's 100% worth that price. So if you're buying a PS5, those would be the 3 PS5 family-friendly software recommendations that I would give to you. And right there alone, if you bought all those games plus the Astro Packing game plus the disc edition of the PS5, I think that's only $550, and you're getting 4 games. You know, in comparison, like if you bought a Switch, you couldn't even buy the pack-in, and then like Donkey Kong, you know, if you wanted to buy the Mario Kart bundle for $500 and Donkey Kong for $70, you would already be at $20 more than this. And you know, this would give you 4 games plus the ability to run movies and all this kind of stuff in your home entertainment center. Just an awesome deal for this setup this Christmas. But I think I would be remiss if I did not mention the older games that PlayStation has created, because people don't really talk about this much, but PlayStation actually has a pretty nice classics library on the PS5 now, and you can play PS1 games, PS2 games, PSP games, and there are a lot of amazing classic games that still hold up to this day. And most of the people probably who are watching my videos, you know, maybe did not play games back in the day. Maybe they're, you know, a younger audience, or they didn't have a PS1 growing up. There are a ton of awesome recommendations that I can give you for the classic games, but these games, it's really amazing. You don't actually have to pay for PS Plus Premium, which is a pretty decently expensive service. You can actually buy all of these games on the store, and they only cost $10. They're all $9.99. So my number one recommendations for you, if you are a person looking for family-friendly games, 3D platforming games, adventure games, and you're buying a PlayStation for the first time and you've never played any of these games, you need to pick up Jak and Daxter, the original Ape Escape, and the original Sly Cooper game. Jak and Daxter is probably one of the best, if not the best, 3D platforming adventure game of all time when it comes to story, atmosphere, controls, level design, just the world design feeling. It's absolutely incredible. I cannot recommend it enough. I would skip, especially if you're looking for family-friendly games specifically, the rest of the Jak games. They are good. I have played them, but they're not nearly as good as the first game. That would be the one that I recommend. So I would, you know, pass on that Jak bundle and just buy the Precursor Legacy if you're looking for an actual strict up 3D platforming adventure. That's the one I would go with. Sly Cooper, I could recommend the entire trilogy, Sly 1 through 3, but obviously you don't want to spend a bunch of money right starting out. Just buy the first game and see what you think. It's also another adventure 3D platforming game. As far as the kids go, you probably want to be 6 and up to play something like Sly Cooper or something like that, you know. And then the original Ape Escape game is, I don't see anyone talking about this. It's very old, and at this point, you know, it might be considered difficult, I guess, for some people, the way that the game controls and stuff. It's absolutely a blast. It's a whole lot of fun. It's silly, quirky, has great level design, great world design, awesome music, and this one-of-a-kind feeling that you can only get from that original Ape Escape. I definitely recommend picking it up, checking it out. Those are 3 platforming adventure games, family-friendly, and just top-tier experiences that are, you know, range all the way back from the 90s to early 2000s, and they hold up today, and you will have a blast for only 10 bucks. And I would be remiss if I didn't plug any of my own games on this video. I'm only going to do one, just quick plug. If you are picking up a PlayStation for the first time and you're watching this because you saw family friendly guide and you're looking for games to play with family, I would recommend picking up the Perplexing Orb 2 from me. It's like a game inspired by Super Monkey Ball. It has 4 players, multiple multiplayer modes, and has a single player campaign with like more than 60 levels, 60 stages for you to play. That's the one I would recommend picking up out of my library. Recommend some PS4 software, because PS4 software, there was a lot of exclusive games for PS4, and there are plenty of PS4 games that have not been ported to PS5, specifically in a native version, or ported to the PC or anything like that. And these games may even run better on PS5. You can play all PS4 games on PS5, basically. So the 3 that I would recommend picking up would be the Wipeout Omega Collection, the Everybody's Golf game for PS4, not the new one, and Knack 2. I might get some flack recommending Knack 2, but I personally think that it's totally worth the play. The first game was not as great overall of an experience. I would say it's kind of mediocre. I kind of like the character and the world design and stuff, so you know, the story does continue from 1 to 2, so you could play that one first, but I don't really think you have to play it in order to play Knack 2. Knack 2 is much better. Once again, it is a multiplayer game. You can play it co-op with your kids. It's got much better level design, some more platforming in it, and the combat is much better. And once again, mostly family friendly. You know, you would probably want them to be like 6 or older, something like that. You know, some slight fantasy violence against goblins, but nothing too serious. It's definitely a really good game. It's a lot of fun. And all these PS4 games now at this point, you know, they're full brand new price. They just charge $19.99 for them. So, you know, they're worth the full price in my opinion, but you might be able to find a physical copy cheaper somewhere if you buy used. And, you know, every once in a while they might put some of these games on sale, but, you know, it doesn't happen too often. So, you know, 20 bucks, it's still a good price. The Wipeout Omega Collection, this is such an underrated gem. I know a lot of people don't know about Wipeout. It's kind of like a futuristic racing game. Yeah, definitely a lot of fun. Split screen, it looks absolutely amazing on the PS5. Totally worth the buy. You guys should pick that up and play it if you've never played it, if you want a fun action combat racing game. And then another family friendly game that is pretty awesome, exclusive to the PS4, is Everybody's Golf. Recently, Sony licensed out the Everybody's Golf Hot Shots IP to Namco Bandai, and they released a new game. Don't buy that one. It is not nearly as good as the older game, and it costs double the money. The PS4 exclusive game is much better. It's older. It came out in 2017 or 2018, and the servers are shut down at this point, but you can still play the entire single player game. You just can't play it online, obviously, but it does have local multiplayer modes. So when I'm thinking family friendly games, I'm thinking games I'm playing with my wife, my kids, that kind of thing. You know, you can all play local on your TV and just have an absolute blast. It's got some awesome courses. It's got amazing graphics. You know, it's very stylized. It looks, but also kind of looks realistic. It's really cool. I would definitely recommend that. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you looking at all these deals, all the offerings from the game companies this year, and considering picking up a PlayStation? I kind of thought about making this video. I ran a poll recently on my YouTube channel trying to see who owned a PS5 who follows me, and most of the people said that they owned a PS5, but I think it was on my YouTube poll, maybe 30% or a little over 30% said they did not own a PS5. So this would be the audience that this is reaching. So I'm just curious, are these sales and deals and the current game prices on all the other hardware, when you look around at all these things, does it look like a PS5 is now worth the pickup to you, or are you planning on passing on this PlayStation generation? Let me know in the comments below. I really enjoy my PS5. I just got mine a year ago. I've had it just over a year now, and I think it's absolutely amazing because not only does it play all the PS4 games, and it plays them better in most cases. There's been a lot of PS5 games and third-party games I've enjoyed, and like I said, I actually use my PlayStation to watch movies and other things with my wife, and it's just really awesome having a physical media beast in my room. Alrighty guys, I got to give a huge shout out to everybody who supports TreeFall Studios on Patreon.com. I got to give a personal shout out to Shark and Minnow, Mandy, Space My Name, Thomas Stewart, Mr. Troy, and Jamil Dabir. Thank you guys for what you do for TreeFall Studios on Patreon.com. Hope you have fun on my random tidbits and buying guide for the PlayStation 5. Let me know if you're picking up a PlayStation 5 this year or not, or if you're going to be skipping it. I hope to see you guys in the next video, and we're going to be talking more game development really soon. Catch you guys later.